Y'all, I'm about to go ham here for a little bit. Bear with me.
Yeah.
In
Eh.
between podcasts, I finished two Yakuza games.
Ah,
so
damn.
I went ham. I snapped. Now, to be fair, one of them is Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon. Came out last year. Came out on consoles this year.
hmm
Either way, it's gonna be in Game of the Years. Um, I was partway through it, but like I did a majority of it since last podcast, so there's that. That one's the turn-based RPG. Tyler and
Yeah.
Bradley were able to see some of this game. I think as far as a turn-based RPG goes, it's super good.
It looks fucking fun as shit.
The combat's really good. It has a lot of stuff where it's like based on positioning, different things can happen. For example, if you're gonna go attack a dude, and he's by a pick upable item, you will pick up that item and smack him with it instead to do boosted damage. Or if someone's on the ground and you go do a basic attack, you do a Yakuza Stomp that does extra damage. But then inversely, if you try to go attack a dude and there's an enemy in between y'all, the enemy's gonna push you away and cancel your attack. And likewise, if you attack
Cool.
when you're next to an ally, you guys would do a quick team up attack. And that's just all mechanics based on the attack button. Because then you get like your skills, which are very Dragon Quest inspired, because the game is very Dragon Quest inspired in general. So everything I said good about the Dragon Quest combat is evident in this game as well. Like it's really meaty and good as far as the combat goes. And I sunk a good amount of time into it. I played it in about 50 hours and did a fair bit of side content. Because in Yakuza games, it's like there's just so much side content that you're never gonna catch me 100%ing one. It's impossible. I can hardly even do like all the submissions because there's so many, in a timely manner. And I'm trying to catch up with the series. Um, this game is not part of the main six games, seven if you count zero. It does not feature Kiryu or Majima as the main characters. It has a new character called Ichiban. Ichiban's story is that he was born in a whorehouse and he was raised there, and by both the owner as well as kind of like the girls that would come in and out of the soap land, as it's called. And that's just, he grew up on the streets. He was abandoned as a child, and there's a very cool twist later in the game about the circumstances in which he was abandoned. And he eventually joins a certain Yakuza family. He becomes intensely loyal to the patriarch named Arakawa. One day, early in the game, you have to take the fall for another family member's murder. And Ichiban, the sweet-headed idiot that he is, has been waiting his whole life for a moment like this. So he jumps on the opportunity. He serves like 18 to 20 years in prison, which is longer than his original prison sentence.
Oh.
And then chapter 2 starts, and you're out of prison, and you're gonna go meet with your patriarch, and you find out that he's A, part of the rival clan, the Omi Alliance, B, not talking to you and having his goons stop you from talking to you, and his lieutenant is actively antagonizing you if you try to approach him. And he didn't keep contact with you the entire 20 years that you were in prison. And that's where we kick the story off. Ichiban gets
Cool.
absolutely fucked by this situation. And it sucks because he's such a loyal dude, but because of his upbringing, I don't know the nice way to say it. I think he straight up has schizophrenia. Because the game doesn't ever diagnose it, but I think a lot of people might agree with me here because Ichiban sees the world as a JRPG. In his days growing up in the Soapland, he was in the back while, Soapland business was happening, playing Dragon Quest 3, 4, and 5. And that's how he grew up, and he's a huge fan of, like, actually Dragon Quest name drop. They don't, like, change the name or anything. They reference Dragon Quest.
Really?
Explicitly. And he sees himself as someone who wants to, even though he's in a life of crime and Yakuza or whatever, he wants to see himself as a hero. And his main class is the class of a hero as well. So that's pretty cool. And that's why
So Like a Dragon. Yeah.
Like a Dragon.
Like a Dragon's a double. It's double entendre because it's like Dragon Quest, but also Kiryu, who is the dragon.
It's a triple entendre because Yakuza is called Ryo Gakokuto in Japanese, which means like a dragon. So you know how Resident Evil is Biohazard? And
okay, I see. Yeah,
it's the exact same thing. So that's pretty cool.
So it's Resident Evil.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's a really good game. It's got some good, like, all these games have some good side stories. So I'll name some of my favorites. There's one where you find a spicy pot of kimchi, and you have to go around town giving it to people in need, such as old ladies that can't cross the street and people trying to do marathons so that they eat the kimchi and start running really fast. There's one where this homeless dude is like, "Hey, I have this pet crawfish. I need you to go save it for me." And you're like, "Okay, I'll go find it." You find the crawfish, you bring it back, and then he brings out a knife. He's like, "All right, time to eat." And Ichiban's like, "No, dude, I got attached to the crawfish." So you have to go on this other side quest to save the crawfish's life. And once you do that, the crawfish becomes part of an app called Pound Mates, where you can phone people up to come fight for you, and becomes a summon. So you have to go on this whole side quest to get a summon that is a crawfish.
Cool.
There's a intensive side mini game where you have to run a business, and I think I described it on the Discord, so I won't go into too in depth here, but it goes so fucking hard on this business sim where you go hiring people, you have to buy locations to manage, you have to give people holidays so that they don't stress out, you gotta work on promoting them, you have to do shareholder meetings, which are alternate RPG battles with like a gacha-esque combat system. It's nutty. I spent a lot of hours. I maxed that out, and by the end of it, if you max it out, you get a party member that you can only get from that mode, which is insane, and you get an attack that lets you orbital strike someone from a satellite. So very cool. So, I used a lot of that. Flaws I have with this game are actually, and this is a really rare complaint, the story a little bit I didn't quite mesh with, and I don't think this is a popular opinion because I think people like the story. Yakuza games have phenomenal stories. I think this one has a weak middle portion where, okay, I told you that beginning, right? That seemed like a really good plot setup, right? You wake up and you're in a homeless den in a different town than you. So you start in Kamurocho, which is where you play most of the Yakuza games. This game introduces Inchinjo, which is a different town in Yokohama. And Inchinjo is, first of all, my favorite location in any Yakuza game. It's fantastic to explore. It's massive. But like, you go on this entire side story about handling the 3 crime divisions in Yokohama, which is like a Japanese Yakuza gang, a Korean mafia, and a Chinese mafia. And they're all pretty interesting and fleshed out in their own way, but you kind of start losing sense of what the initial plot premise was, and I feel like that hurts. Like, is this important? Like, how is this going to feed back into the story? And I don't think it fed back in particularly well. And then it finishes fairly strong as well with a really good twist near the end. So yeah, in a rare occurrence, I thought the story was a bit lacking, but a lot of good like, you get a whole RPG party, and I like all the members. There's a lot of good friendship moments in this, but it also the combat's really goofy, and like you're shooting orbital strikes and summoning crabs, like I said, and it gets insane. The problem is Yakuza games are really stupid and funny. However, when it's time to have the serious fight, they are so gripping. I need to show y'all the final boss of the next game I'm going to talk about, because it is peak action directing. Like, it's better than any action movie you've ever seen. Just the way the camera and the strikes look, it's fantastic. But when it's one boss against 4 hobos, where like one is a girl idol, one is like a literal hobo that uses a lighter to breathe fire on you, and one's a dude with a police baton, and you're a dude pretending to be a hero with your baseball bat, it kind of takes away from those serious moments. So none of the bosses feel as intense as they do in any of the Yakuza games as well. That's enough out of Yakuza 7. I've been playing Lost Judgment, so I started this in between podcasts and played 56 hours and completed it literally before we start. I'm actually on the last cutscene, and that's what I'm gonna do as soon as we finish the podcast. Because I was playing it right up to when we started this. Lost Judgment. I have not loved a game like this in a while. I was deeply addicted to this game. It was like eating a juicy, greasy burger every day. Oh my god, they refined so much in this game. So I've talked about Judgment before, as you guys will recall.
Mm-hmm.
Judgment is the other side series where you play as Yagami, who's a lawyer who no longer practices and instead is a detective now, but he still has his lawyer's badge. And I remember when I described the plot of Judgment, you guys seemed really into it. So the premise of Judgment was already really good. I won't go into it now, but it's in the archive somewhere, one of our podcasts. But Judgment picks up right after. It's got the same cast of main characters and introduces some new ones. And this game, first of all, and this applies to Yakuza 7 as well, these next-gen Yakuza games are so pretty. You kind of get lost when you're playing a Yakuza game, and you don't stop to realize how much detail is in every inch of this city. Like, they don't take any shortcuts to making this city feel alive. Even buildings you're never going to interact with have unique decor. You walk into a Popo Mart, which is like their CVS, and every single every single shelf is stocked with individual items that are meticulously rendered and detailed, and you walk around and the lighting is fucking gorgeous in the new gen model the new gen engine that they're using. So it's a freaking looker. You play this one in Kamurocho and Ichijo as well, but Ichijo is where we went in Yakuza 7, and this is the follow-up to that, I guess, chronologically as far as games that the studio has released. So it's the first time you get to do that in an action game, because this one's not an RPG. It's still an action RPG. Or like more beat 'em up, perhaps you could say the Yakuza games are. I've always gone on record to say Yakuza games combat is not particularly good. It's fun, but there's a lot of bullshit in it, and you're just trying to do stylish shit on people. I will say they finally made a combat system that's genuinely well designed and fun, and feels and looks incredible. I felt like such a badass. Yagami has 2 new styles in this game. So it has a crane style and a tiger style, which he always had. So, like, crane style is all about AoE attacks and quick moves. And, like, you can now do, like, Matrix-style crane jumps that slow down time. And then you do, like, Neo kicks and shit from the air. And then tiger style is more about, like, 1v1s and targeting down a single dude and just doing charge attacks. And you unlock moves where you skate on a skateboard and ride it off people's faces. So that's really fun. And then you get a new style called the snake style, which is really important narratively. And for reasons I'll get here in a second. Snake Tail's all about anti-weapon and deflection. So it's kind of busted because at any point of your combo, if you time a parry right, you will deflect a dude's attack. And you can inflict fear. And if you inflict fear on an enemy, you can instantly take them out with what's called an EX surrender attack, where Yagami will, like... He has different animations for this, but one of them is, like, he comes up to you and he punches you an inch from your face and makes you pass out. Or he, like, kicks you from an inch from your face, or, like... He does this move where he does a flip kick and he kicks you in the face. But if you're doing the EX surrender version, the kick lands right like next to their head and then they surrender. So this is really important because the plot of Judgment, or Lost Judgment rather, is that Yagami gets tasked with researching a bullying problem at a Japanese high school. And this leads to one of the most riveting plots I've ever sat through, where... It gets tied up very early on with a... So Yagami has some lawyer buddies, and they get a dude... I'm going to say get a dude off, which always makes y'all laugh. What is the proper way to say that? It's not indict, but... I don't know. They get a dude off. They liberate a man. Actually, they fail to liberate him. Basically, this dude gets caught for groping a woman on a train station, and then he's in trial, and he's being a jackass. He's not even defending himself. And as soon as his verdict gets declared, he says, okay, there's a corpse in this building in Ichijo that's been there for 2 weeks. His name is this. Go find it. And everyone's like, wait, what? We haven't heard anything about this corpse. How the fuck do you know that? You've been in prison the last 2 weeks. Essentially, this dude has created an alibi to avoid murdering his son's bully. And he's spitting in the face of the justice system because, as it turns out, the strongest enemy in the world is a high school bully who will drive someone to suicide but then not be properly punished for it because it's a child and schools will cover up bullying problems. And that's kind of where the plot takes off. And the big theme is bullying, and you're following this case and like this cover up, and you start learning about other bully incidents, and you start learning about other bully killers, and it gets freaking insane. And I was like getting really sad at how the plot was resolving here at the end at these last few cutscenes. It goes hard. And it gets dark for a story that starts about like, haha, hello fellow kids, I'm your new school advisor for your club, and then you're talking about the shit that's going on in those last cutscenes. It's like this gets really heavy. Which leads me to the main side attraction of this game. So last game had the management sim. This one has Yagami infiltrating school clubs to learn about a criminal in the underground called the Professor. So that's two of the professors that I've taken out this year in video games. One in The Great Ace Attorney, one in this. And they're both named after Sherlock Holmes, so that tracks. And what happens is you join the Mystery Research Club, which is a club featuring a young, spunky 18-year-old senior girl who ditches all her classes to go solve mysteries, and she's a great character. And her brother, who's just there to like read manga at the club and not do shit. And she wants you to go infiltrate 10 other clubs in the school and learn how the professor connects to them. This is like a whole side story that took like 15 plus hours to complete. So it's just like a really extensive set of sub-stories where it's like, okay, I'm joining the dance club now. I'm going to practice with them and help them be their advisor because their advisor doesn't show up anymore. So now we have to do this dancing mini game where Yagami dances like an idiot. And you go through this entire, like, you go through multiple shonen sports storylines for each of these clubs that are all unique and have great characters. Like, for the dance club, you have to find someone who's being a sugar bunny and getting into trouble where, like, she's dating older men and getting paid for it and, like, kind of scamming people. And it's all because the professor facilitated her getting into this. Or you have to join a boxing ring where one of the dudes is being suspected for being the payback boxer, where he dresses up at night and go beats up dudes with his boxing skills, and you have to like discover what the deal is with him, which unlocks this entire boxing mini game, which then unlocks moves for your fourth style in this game, which is a boxing style. And by the way, Bradley, you need to play. Well, you don't work at Nexusys anymore. Nexusys needs to go play this game to see what a good boxing mini game feels like.
Yo,
because it's pretty fucking fun. One of my favorite clubs, but also the most hated club, is the Robotics Club, and I can't believe how fucking intricate this gets. You make these little robots, and you get to customize your robot and two AI partners, and you have to pilot them to, like, pick up Tetris blocks, and then put them, like, do y'all remember how Dungeon Dice Monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Works? Where you, like, slowly unravel dice to, like, make a path?
I had Dungeon Dice Monsters for Game Boy Advance, and I played it.
Oh, I played the fuck out of that game. This game kind of works like Dungeons Dice Monsters, where you have to like create a path with these blocks that you pick up and then you place down. And the enemies are also trying to pick them up. And they have weapons and different classes. So you have tanks that can hunker down on a spot and wait for the block to spawn. Or you get dudes that can like shoot grenade launchers, like little robot grenade launchers that do AoE damage. I rocked the fast boy with a drill. So I would just, like, speed boost to because only the leader can drop the block, so I would speed boost to the drop area and then, like, start dropping them and then drill into people if I run into trouble. And, like, the customization for this is insane. Like, it's a whole big-ass sub-game. Problem is the AI can be incredibly stupid. But that actually became a whole shonen story of its own, because by the end of the game, they make you play with this set machine for the last round, and it wasn't a fast boy like I was used to, so I was like, fuck, I can't trust my AI partners to go get the blocks for me. So I actually shifted around my team and their AI chips a little bit, and lo and behold, my useless teammate the whole time, that had been like bad the whole time, started zooming around and picking up the blocks for me, and it was just like a weird character development moment that was like created strictly through gameplay. The only problem I have with these is, like, there's a boxing club, a dancing club, a motorcycle club, where you do death battles on motorcycles, which is, like, combat on motorcycles for real. There's a skate club, and there's this robotic club. All of those go on for definitely too long. You have to do way too many missions for each. For example, like to clear the dancing minigame, I had to do 23 songs, which is quite a lot, and I had to play like 25 matches of the robotics minigame. So like, while I thought all the minigames were fun, I thought the long ones especially were a little overdone. There's also 5 short clubs that are very quick to do, and those are pretty good. I like the length of those a little better. So yeah, I completed all of that. I did almost every side mission. I learned almost every skill. Like, I haven't gone this hard on a Yakuza game since Zero, and that says a lot because Zero sucked me in so hard, and I've been just kind of playing them and completing them for the most part. But I did so much of the side content for this one, so highly recommend. If anyone wants to get into the Yakuza games, I think 7 and Judgment 1 are good ones to get into. And then Zero is also another good one to get into, which Joe never completed. Rest in peace.
I think my biggest regret was getting on my computer because I realized as I was playing this game, it's like I want to play this on the couch and kind of just relax while I play it.
Joe, you should try Judgment. I think you'd really like it. And then most importantly,
I do want to try Judgment.
Judgment 2 is so. I think it's my favorite Yakuza game. I never thought something would beat Zero.
I think it's funny you say that because I hear from the reviews that people thought Lost Judgment was a lot worse than Judgment.
I haven't seen any of those reviews. What I did see was a Skill Up review where he hated the game because you're beating up children. And this is where the snake style comes in, because canonically what's happening is Yagami's tossing them around and then using EX surrenders on them. And also you start fighting the school children pretty early on in the story and start fighting gang members again. So it's like, I like beating up those kids. They were fucking assholes. They were like, the bullying in this game is incredibly uncomfortable, and they made those kids very punchable. Oh man, there's this point of the story where you get footage of a kid's final bullying moments before he jumps off a roof, and it is incredibly hard to watch. Like, they going very hard with this game. It's fantastic. I fucking loved it. I love where the story went. And like I said, I think my Yakuza ranking right now, for anyone keeping track, it goes Lost Judgment, 0, Judgment 1, Yakuza 7, and then Kiwami 2, which is the remake of 2, and then 1 and 3 kind of fall in somewhere down there. They're still good. I need to finish 4. That's what I was playing before I started going hard on these games, and I was really liking 4. So look forward to that next year.